Ironic choice of words. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Lambert the Sheepish Lion. This is a donation reward for Venom, so thank you as always, Venom. And this is a Disney short that came out in the 50s. All I know about it is, I guess it's about a lion who's sheepish. Not really much to go on, but I guess with like shorts like this, you don't really need much because they're, so short. There's not really like a big story to it. It's very simple. It's very basic. So what's more interesting is my journey to get this downloaded. So I went onto YouTube and I found a copy and I downloaded it, right? Well, I bring it up to get it set up to do this reaction and everything, and I realize, okay, something's off with this. And I realized that it's like the file, and this is on YouTube too, I checked. It wasn't just some weird issue when I downloaded it. It zooms into corners of the screen every so often. And I assume it's a copyright thing, a way to circumvent that. But it zooms into corners of the screen randomly, and a lot of times it's backwards, like it also reverses the screen, and it just makes it pretty much unwatchable. It's like if you're gonna do all that, there's no point to even putting it up on YouTube. It's not excuse me, it's not watchable. It completely destroys the watchability of the short. And so I looked on YouTube to see if I could find a different copy. And the only other copy I could find that was like the actual thing and not just like a tiny little 10-second clip was in Spanish. Like the title of the video was in Spanish, and I checked the very beginning of the narration, and it was also in Spanish. It's like, I'm not going to be able to understand this. And I can't trust the YouTube automatic translator, because that thing's shit as hell. It's always been shit. So I went to look to see, okay, where else online might I find this? Apparently it's on Disney Plus. I don't have Disney Plus, so kind of screwed on that regard. But then I saw in the Google search there is also listed a Dailymotion link. And I'm like, okay, let me check this out. I checked it out. It's in English. It seems to be fairly good quality. And it's not like hiding in the corner and reversing the shot half the time. So I downloaded that, but the thing is, it's a little longer than the actual short is. It kind of loops it for some reason at the end. So it's like once it ends, it'll loop back to a bit of it, I guess. I didn't really check I still don't know what it's about. I didn't watch it or anything ahead of time. I just kind of skimmed through the preview pane on the tab or on the progress bar. And I saw oh, it says end right about here at the, 8-minute or so mark when it would normally end. But then it continues back into things, and it's ah, that's weird. But it's a copy. And that's what's important here. So, yeah, it was quite a little journey to getting this downloaded, but we got there. So, all of that being said, let's just kind of hope for the best and hope that there are no issues with the video at all. So let's just get into it and see what we have in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I can't believe I called that, though. Like, with Sterling Holloway being the voice of Winnie the Pooh, I mean, again, mind you, it feels like it's pretty obvious because it's such a recognizable sounding voice. Like, obviously, we know, like, Sterling Holloway, as I read from that, died in 92, the same year I was born, ironically. So we know he didn't like remain the voice of Winnie the Pooh in projects after that. I can't remember the name of the actor who took over, but we know who it is. Um, Give me a second. Winnie the Pooh voice. Jim Cummings. Roger Carroll was also one of the voices, so it was those three who have really voiced him. Jim Cummings is who we think of nowadays, but Sterling Holloway was the original voice, and you can definitely hear it. But like I said, he also did like the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, Kaa the snake in the Jungle Book, Roquefort the mouse in the Aristocats, Mr. Stork in Dumbo, Adult Flower in Bambi. It's like he was known for like his Disney roles, and apparently he was a singer too. So his like song, singing the sheepish Lambert the Sheepish Lion song in this, like he actually did sing. He actually has a really big list of credits here. He was in a lot of stuff. So that's he had a really accomplished career. So good for him, like honestly. But let's actually talk about the short. So the short, again, just like I was expecting, is pretty simple. We have a stork accidentally delivering a lion cub to a flock of sheep. The lion cub ends up bonding with this sheep mother who otherwise didn't get a child. And, the mother drives off the stork so he doesn't take Lambert back. Lambert is raised and picked on because, he's different. He's a lion and everybody knows it. And so they pick on him because he's not like a normal sheep. He can't do like the normal sheep sounds. He can't like headbutt like sheep. He's seen as an outcast. But then, as he grows up, he ends up saving the flock from a hungry wolf. This gains him the respect of the flock, who now treat him as one of their own. They treat him as a sheep. He even learns how to bleat. He learns how to just be a sheep, but he also learns to use his natural lion roar and intimidation to be able to drive off predators who would attack his family. And it's a very nice sounding plot, but like with a lot of these like classic Disney stories, a lot of these classic Disney shorts that are, like based on like storybooks and everything for kids, it's the message is way too simple, and unfortunately, really unfortunately, kind of tells a backwards theme and message to its child audience. Because the problem here is not that Lambert was accepted for protecting his family. That's actually great. The problem is that Lambert is only accepted when he protects his family. Lambert is only seen as one of them because he proved himself useful. He's only seen as a member of the flock, as a sheep rather than a sheepish lion, because he proved to be someone that they could rely on, someone that they could basically have as protection. And all in all, it, like, at first thought, it doesn't sound too bad. It's like, oh, they realize that he's more than he let on before, and so now they accept him because they realize they were wrong. But they didn't. Again, they're only accepting him now because he's useful to them, because he can protect them from predators. Otherwise, nothing has changed. Like, it even makes kind of a point that outside of like when he uses his intimidation to scare off the wolf, his personality is pretty much the same. So they really just it really gives this message that unless you're useful to someone uh like outside of yourself, you don't have any worth. That your worth is completely determined by your usefulness to others, which is a terrible message. And I don't the thing is I don't think it was intentional. I don't think that's what this was going for, but that is what it's teaching. It and this is something that I think is echoed really well or like expressed really well in Ruby. So if you've never seen the series Ruby, it is an animated internet series that was created by Monty Ohm and Rooster Teeth, and is currently owned by Viz Media. But Ruby has a lot of basis around fairy tales. A lot of the characters are based around and even to some degree named after fairy tale characters. And not just fairy tales, but like fictional characters in a lot of ways in general, but a lot of them are fairy tale characters. And so fairy tales are even integrated into the lore and the story of the series. To a point where the most recent volume, Volume 9, which it still came out years and years ago because of, Rooster Teeth going under, actually takes place in a literal fairy tale world. The main cast are transported to this fairy tale world, and it's literally the world from a fairy tale, one of the books they grew up reading. But they find out that the book was obviously written based off of this real place. And it's basically Alice in Wonderland. So it's like a literal fairy tale that we all know, but obviously a bit different. There's still like enough to where you can grasp everything going on, but it's also its own story. You get the gist. The point is, in this fairy tale world, like, the characters are just trying to like get through it and get out of it so they can get back to their own world, while also, dealing with all the issues and problems in this one. And when they're talking about the fairy tale world, as well as a previous person who had gone through it, the main character of the book they all read as a kid, Alex. Alice in Wonderland, Alex, you get it. But when they're talking about that, they mention that all those old stories had such simplistic messages. They literally mention and talk about how simplistic and basic all these old stories are. That their themes, their messages, their concepts really are built on like these really minuscule ideas. And because of that, there's not a lot of depth or nuance there. There's not like a lot of intended depth or nuance. Because again, they're based upon simple ideas and messages that kids can understand. And the thing is, this is true in the real world. Most of these stories out there that you'll read are very simplistic. And when you grow up, you realize there's a lot more to this. There's a lot more nuance that you can either extract from these stories, or you see more nuance because you're older and have experienced more of the world. And so even if it's not in the story itself, you see how it could be viewed that way. And that's quite fascinating to think about. Because it allows you to have different perspectives at different points in your life. Something you might have thought was like, very sweet or cute or, nice when you were young, you might grow up and realize, oh, there's actually some creepiness to that, or that's actually a bit weird, or that's actually toxic. Stuff like that. And you might not get behind it as much as you did when you were a kid. And this goes for a lot of things too, not just, fairy tale stories. But there's a lot of like shows and movies out there you grow up with, and then you become an adult and you realize, oh, this is not as good as I thought it was, or this has like the message behind this is not as good. Because the problem is, with time, our themes and values and our ideas of what these messages mean change because society changes. This came out in the 50s, and obviously our society's view on a lot of things were very different in the 50s, especially families and how family dynamics should work. Now, I will say for the 50s, this was actually pretty progressive. Like, I've seen a lot worse from, like, older times. This was actually pretty progressive because it's basically a stand-in for an interracial family. Mind you, there's problems with using animals as, like, a stand-in for an interracial family, but the idea is actually still pretty positive, all things considered, because it's definitely meant to represent that kind of thing, and not necessarily racial, but like anything where things are like unconventional. It can refer to adoption just as well. And the idea here is that you have a parent lovingly and just unrestrainedly taking care of a child that, is different. You see the other kids in the neighborhood picking on and bullying said child. But the child is like so dedicated to, helping out his community that when he actually does, people see that he's not just different, that he does have value. And again, the message could have been handled better, and in modern day it probably would be. Where it's like, yeah, it's a little simplistic, and there's a not great implication with it, with like only having use if you're useful. But still, it's very progressive for an animated short from the 50s, especially for Disney. Like, I hate to say it that way, but let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. Walt Disney was founded on some crazy shit. Anti-Semitism, racism, a lot of horrible shit. Walt Disney was a fucking terrible person. Like, we look at like the company he made and a lot of the animated projects that exist because of him, and it's like, oh, we love Mickey Mouse, we love Winnie the Pooh, we love all of this classic Disney stuff. But it's like, you have to at least acknowledge as well that the guy behind all of this magic and whimsy was a terrible, atrociously bad person. And it sucks to think about. You don't want people who, like, have made your favorite pieces of media to be bad. But it's one of those cases where you have to acknowledge where this came from. And yeah, nowadays, like, none of the Disney movies being released now are necessarily created by that terrible of a person. Though you could also like make arguments for how terrible Disney is as a company now, but that's a completely different story. The point is that for Disney, and for very early Disney, because I think Walt Disney was still alive at this time. Uh, when did Walt Disney? Yeah, Walt Disney died in 1966. This came out in the 50s. He was still alive when this came out. He probably had a pretty direct role in making this. Because we know that Walt Disney did take on very direct roles in the animations. Even if he didn't make everything himself, he at least, watched over it and looked at it and stuff. So that's wild that someone who was, anti Semitic, racist, sexist, would sign off on something that's, again, so very clearly is meant to be an allegory for, like, an interracial family and whatnot. Mind you, maybe he signed off on it because of the message being a little skewed there. But yeah, it's just for early Disney, this was a lot more progressive. Like, you think of some progressive themes with like the Renaissance Disney movies, like Hercules, or Little Mermaid, or Beauty and the Beast. You think of some more progressive themes starting there. And then obviously modern Disney and Pixar stuff is going to be like much more heavily progressive, obviously. But you don't think of like the really, really early stuff as being so. So I do have to give some notable credit to that. Um, the entertainment level of this alone was fine. It's like it wasn't anything special, but it wasn't bad by any means either. It was fine. It exists. um, I have a lot of fun with. I had a lot of fun with it. Again, it's not the best. It has some issues that mostly stem from the simplicity of it. But there's a lot to love, and I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I was able to find a copy that wasn't, scuffed either. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Lambert the Sheepish Lion? Did you enjoy it like I did? What are your thoughts on the messaging and the overall themes of something like this, especially for the time it came out? Let me know, and thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.